Right, let's go to the US now. Donald Trump is spending the night in New York at Trump Tower before appearing in court later. He's set to make history once again, this time as the first president of the United States to be charged with a criminal offence. The charges relate to money paid to a porn star to keep quiet about an alleged affair before the 2016 election. The judge has ruled that pooled media will be allowed to take still pictures in the courtroom. I should say pooled media means when the media organisations, all the different news outlets want to have their own TV cameras inside, but a pool arrangement is when a few cameras will be allowed in and that material is then shared between different organisations. TV cameras will only be allowed in outside hallways and corridors. Security measures, as you can imagine, will be in place with the authorities expecting demonstrations by the president's supporters and opponents. We can get the latest now from Neda Tawfiq in Manhattan.
Donald Trump kept a low profile as he arrived in New York on the eve of his history-making court appearance, staying in at his penthouse in Trump Tower to confer with his attorneys. But on social media, it was a different story. He slammed the case against him as a witch hunt, and he called on the district attorney, Alvin Bragg, to resign. His call for mass protests failed to gain traction, but on Fifth Avenue outside of Trump Tower, a few supporters and critics turned out. Trump is the first former president charged with a crime, a fact that has put him back in the spotlight.
He shouldn't even be charged with a misdemeanor in this case, and they're charging him with a felony. Oh my God, they really don't like this guy. They're really afraid of him.
I think it's amazing and it's beautiful that finally the institutions are doing what they're supposed to do. I think we're all witnessing history.
I'm here out of a sense of duty and gratitude. In 2016, Donald Trump became president, and he told the American people, the working people of America, I've got your back. Now he's in peril, he's being persecuted. I felt I had to come in to let him know, I got your back, Mr. President.
U.S. news channels aired wall-to-wall coverage of his journey as the Secret Service escorted him to New York. Camera and news helicopters captured every moment from Mar-a-Lago past a street of supporters cheering him on to his flight on his private Boeing 757 aircraft into LaGuardia Airport. As Trump was taking off, officials in New York held a press conference with this warning to anyone planning to protest.
While there may be some rabble-rousers thinking about coming to our city tomorrow, our message is clear and simple. Control yourselves. New York City is our home, not a playground for your misplaced anger.
It's here in this courthouse where Donald Trump will answer to the criminal charges against him, not just as a defendant, but a presidential hopeful. 2024 may feel like a long way off, but the dynamics of this case are already shaping the race for the White House. Neda Tawfiq, BBC News, New York.
Well, let's go live now to New York. Our correspondent, Michelle Fleury, is there. Hi, Michelle. So every moment of this is being picked over, isn't it?
It certainly is. We were outside Trump Tower a bit earlier on this evening. There was the barricades, plenty of police presence, all in anticipation of what we expect to be, you know, this historic day happening with the arraignment of Donald Trump, him turning himself into the courthouse where we expect him to learn the charges against him. They could be as many as 30. We don't know yet until that indictment is unsealed. And of course, that is the moment then when Donald Trump has the opportunity to enter a plea. We expect him to plead not guilty. All of this, of course, relates to hush money payments made in the lead up to the 2016 presidential election that he won over Democrat and former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. But, you know, everyone is waiting to see what will happen next, because this has never been seen before in American history. A president being accused of a crime, a former president, having to have his fingerprints taken. We understand there won't be mugshots. Because of the kind of unprecedented nature of all of this, there had been a push to see if cameras would be allowed inside the proceedings. But as you mentioned, the judge decided not to in the end, even as he acknowledged that these were really, a very unusual and what he described as a very important moment. But he said he had other considerations to take into account. Presumably some of that has to be the fact that Donald Trump's own lawyers had said he had not wanted cameras in the room. Pretty unusual for someone who generally has been known not to be shy when it comes to cameras. But of course, this is something very different than anything he has faced before.
And Michelle, what time is it where you are? Just gone 2 a.m. or something. What are we seeing on the streets around New York? Because we saw those warnings of people, if they are going to make their way to New York, to remain calm, and we heard from people who wanted to turn out. Is there any sign of anything at the moment, or is it still far too early for that?
Look, I mean, I think if you want to express it, the way one policeman put it, I think it sort of sums up the kind of mood of New Yorkers, at least. He said, oh, look, it's too far, there's too much traffic and it's too hard to park. That was the reason he put that he wasn't too worried about too many protests or trouble. But while he may have been joking, the reality on the ground is, there are barricades all along the route that he will take from Trump Tower down to the courthouse. There is everyone who works for the police department has been ordered to be in uniform, ready to go on the streets. And there is an expectation that there will be people turning out to protest and also people turning out in support of Donald Trump. And that's why you had the mayor coming out and sort of saying, don't treat this as a playground. And he took particular aim at Marjorie Taylor Greene, the controversial American lawmaker, Republican, who is going to be taking part in an event in support of Donald Trump ahead of that arraignment.
OK. All eyes on New York in the hours ahead. Thank you very much for that, Michelle.